wrong CD and I would have shipped invoicing code into a Telegram bot repo at 2 a.m. 3 live client projects, 1 physical box, 1 Claude Code session. If you're running more than 1 client through Claude Code, you already know the fear. Claude edits the wrong repo, MCP servers point at the wrong database, and your Git history becomes a crime scene. I'll show you the exact 12-line.n file that made cross-project bugs go to 0 for 60 days. Most tutorials teach you to start a one-person business. Nobody teaches you what breaks at client 3. I run 3 production systems from 1 WSL box daily. Here's the file that keeps them separated. Let's start with the scenario that scares me, because it's probably already happening to you. You have a client project open in Claude Code. You get a Slack ping from client 2. You CD into their repo without closing the session. Claude still has the first client CLAUDE.md loaded in context. It still thinks the database URL is the first client's Postgres. It still has the first client's MCP servers connected. You ask it to add a small feature. It writes code that references tables that don't exist in this repo, imports helpers from the other project's namespace, and if you're really unlucky, it commits and pushes before you catch it. I've seen this happen to solo builders 3 times in the last month. Every single time, the root cause was the same. Claude Code was running with stale environment context. The fix is not more prompting. The fix is not a better CLAUDE.md. The fix is environment isolation at the shell level, and it takes 12 lines. Here's the problem stated cleanly. When you run multiple client projects from one machine, Claude Code inherits whatever your shell has loaded. Working directory, environment variables, MCP config path, database URLs, API keys, log destinations. If those don't atomically swap when you change projects, Claude will happily use the wrong ones. And Claude is fast enough now that by the time you notice, it's already written 40 lines of wrong code. Existing solutions fall short here. Docker containers per project. Too heavy. Too slow to start. MCP servers get weird across the container boundary. Separate machines per client. You're a solo operator. You don't have 3 laptops. VS Code workspaces. They isolate the editor, not the shell Claude runs in. Diron V is closer, but on its own, it doesn't touch MCP config paths or verify you're in the right Git remote before Claude touches a file. So here's what I actually run. Step 1 is the .n file itself, 1 per client, stored in a folder called client ncheese in my home directory. 12 lines. Project non-score name, which is the canonical short name of the client. Project root, the absolute path to the repo. CAUD docs.com/franch file, the absolute path to the project's CAUD.md. MCP, tras a fag pointing to a project-specific MCP.json, so Claude Code only sees the servers this client needs. DB, GURL, the database connection string. Log, GURL, the short tag that gets prepended to every log long so I can grep across projects later. ITURL, of the EL of the Git remote this project should be pointing at. API keywhile, the path to a Gitnode secrets file. CLUD, mode E1. Because some clients pay for Opus work and some don't. Telemetry, IntelliDs per tag for usage tracking. Node E1's ENV or equivalent. And project tag for usage tracking. Node E1's ENV or equivalent. And project color, which is just an ANSI color code so my terminal prompt changes color colored. Then my pad eyes cat Brahms bag. Step 2 is the switch client shell function. This lives in my .bash RC and it's about 20 lines, but the logic is simple. It takes one argument, the client name. It sources the matching.end from client M's. It sources the matching.end from client M's. It CDs into project root. It verifies that the git remote of the current directory matches git xbed xdiremote, and if it doesn't, it refuses to continue and prints a red error. It exports CLAUDE to conference sent firstway, and MCP erskwenfeg tongue spast, so Claude Code picks them up. It changes the terminal prompt color using project colorburst, and it prints a one-line summary: which project is loaded, which database it's pointing at, which model is active. 40 seconds of typing, and you know exactly where Claude Code is about to operate. Step 3 is the safety rail, because I don't trust myself. It's a pre-commit hook, about 15 lines of bash, that reads the CLAUDE sex chord, sprint sync file environment variable, and compares the project name inside it against the repo name of the current directory. If they don't match, the commit is rejected with a loud message telling you which context is loaded and which repo you're in. This has saved me twice. Both times I had switched directories manually without running switch client. Both times Claude generated correct-looking code for the wrong project, and both times the hook caught it before anything shipped. Step 4 is the CLAUDE.md loader pattern. Each client's SEUDE.md lives inside the repo, but I also keep a symlink at a predictable path that switch client points CEUDEUCOM-frext file at. This means when Claude Code starts, it reads exactly one context file, and that file is always the right one for the currently active client, because switch client just updated the symlink. No stale context, no accidental cross-contamination, no manually clearing chat history between clients. Step 5 is the MCP config split. Instead of one global mmop.json with every server for every client, I have one mop.json per client, containing only the servers that client's project needs. Client 1 needs a Postgres MCP, pointed at their invoicing database, and a file system MCP scoped to their repo. Client 2 needs a Telegram MCP and a different file system scope. Client 3 needs a Scraper MCP and a Redis MCP. When switch client sets MCP arc config tarf, Claude Code only ever sees the servers relevant to the currently active client. No accidental queries against the wrong database. No file system access outside the current project root. Now the demo. I open one terminal. I type switch client alpha. Prompt turns blue. I'm headed into the invoicing project. Git remote verified. MCP config swapped. Claude Code launched with the alpha CLDED.md. I ask Claude to add a validation rule to an invoice model. It writes the code, references the right tables, uses the right helpers. I commit, pre-commit hook confirms context matches repo. Done. Same terminal. Switch client beta. Prompt turns green. I'm in the Telegram bot project. Different MCP servers, different database, different context file. I ask Claude to add a new command handler. It has no idea the invoicing project exists because nothing about it is loaded anymore. Switch client gamma. Prompt turns orange. Legend project. Scraper MCP is now active. Claude picks up where I left off yesterday because its context file has the notes I dropped in last night. 3 projects, 1 terminal, under a minute of switching, 0 cross-contamination. 60 days, 0 cross-project bugs. That's the whole system. 12 lines of config per client, 1 shell function, 1 pre-commit hook, 1 symlink pattern, 1 MCP config per project. If you're running Claude Code for more than 1 client and you don't have something like this, you're 1 late-night CD away from a very bad Monday. The etfdent template. switch client function and the pre-commit hook are on BizflowAI.io. Grab them and drop them into your own setup tonight. If this channel is your thing, hit subscribe and ring the bell so the next breakdown finds you. And if you're already juggling 2 or 3 clients on one machine and you want us to set this isolation pattern up for you properly, with the MCP splits, the CLAUDE.md symlinks, the safety rails, all of it, book a free 30-minute discovery call at BizflowAI.io. That's exactly the kind of setup we ship for clients.